This is a review of the Sony 24 to 240mm zoom lens for mirrorless E-mount Sony cameras. This is a heavy lens. It's 780 grams. It's a fatty. It's got an internal drive autofocus system that's completely silent. The zoom system pulls in and out with a rather heavy turn, difficult to do when the lens isn't mounted on the camera. This lens does best outdoors, where there's lots of light and lots of usability for up to its 10 times zoom. The pictures this lens produces are very sharp, but lacking in color contrast. The shadows don't seem to contain as much detail as other lenses. The colors are a bit unsaturated. Notice in our subject Snowy here, the fur is very sharp on her nose, but her eye is a bit dull in the green tones. The width of 24mm gives nice wide-angle shots on a full-frame camera, making this lens very versatile. Now for some picture quality tests, mostly to check for uniformity across the image. Here we're going to try to 24mm at f3.5. The center of the picture is predictably sharp, but there's an excessive amount of chromatic aberration around the edges. It's still there at f5.6, improving just a touch in both sharpness and aberration. At f9, it's mostly sharp up to the very edges, but there's still heavy aberration. Finally, at f16, this diminishes and we have a very sharp image with no aberration. Now moving on to the fully zoomed in 240mm test. And we can see there's no chromatic aberration in the image, but it's very soft in the edges with significant improvement at f9 and completely sharp at f16. Here we have an autofocus continuous test of the 24 to 240 lens. One thing you can notice while watching this test is just how well the optical stabilization absorbs all the little shakes of my hand. The optical stabilization is actually quite good on this lens, and it's also completely silent just like the autofocus. This lens is very fast at focus in good light and tracks well even when you're moving. In low light, this lens is a bit slower to acquire focus, but still good. And when moving back and forth from a subject, it can pick up focus in a reasonable amount of time. Autofocus single shot is predictably almost instantaneous, and probably would be if my camera had phase detection or hybrid autofocus. The Sony 24 to 240mm lens is versatile, sharp, and well suited for video with its stabilization and autofocus capabilities. Full-frame zoom lenses with good autofocus are generally quite expensive, and the Sony isn't cheap, especially considering its mediocre image quality output. But for $1,200, you get a lens that can be a wide-angle lens, zoomed in far for telephoto shots, have extremely fast and completely silent autofocus with fantastic optical stabilization. That's a lot of good without much bad. Unless you absolutely demand the best image quality you can get, the 24 to 240 can fulfill a lot of roles in your shooting. Thank you for watching.